So up to now, we have learned the importance of SKU numbers to organize our portfolio and how to distribute our parent folders and subfolders. We agreed that parent folders contain the subfolders, so in this lesson I am going to teach you which documents and files should be included inside these children folders. Particularly, I really recommend to keep everything related to a single pattern inside the corresponding parent and children's folders. So in order to organize correctly all these documents and files, we need to establish a file classification system. First of all, it is a good habit to create in the main corresponding parent folder a subfolder called References. In this folder, we will keep our visual or written references, if we have them, such as images, poems, songs, or anything else that has been a source of inspiration for us to create a specific pattern. We can include as well the initial sketches, mood boards, and motifs development files. In the previous lessons, I explained that our patterns will be placed inside the children's folders numerated with a correlative SKU numbers. So now we are going to see which documents and files should be created and placed inside these subfolders. So we have already created our children's folder inside our parent folder. As surface pattern designers, our workflow should start with the first file where we have our raw pattern. And I call it raw because whether we work on Illustrator or in Photoshop, our pattern is not trimmed or clean yet at this point, because the artboard can include still our notes, ideas, different color tests, and so on. This first file is very necessary to save, because if we need in the future to make any variations, we can easily go back to it and make modifications. So it is important that we find a proper way to name it. My suggestion is that we use the corresponding SKU number and add an ending that could be seamless, raw, initial, or anything else that you can come up with. This is an example of how it would look in our subfolder. The second file would be our pattern totally clean or trimmed, ready to use or to send to a client. To trim your patterns, you can do it manually using a clipping mask or using a script, such as Super Magic Eraser, as I do in the example. Scripts make your processes faster and smoother, so they are very handy to have. If we are working with Illustrator, our color swatch panel will just include the color palette that we have used for that specific design, and we will have the symbols panel empty. This is a good habit to keep, as our file weight will be lower this way. If we are working with Photoshop, we will only have one layer with the trimmed and final pattern. We will name this second file using the same SKU number and the previous ending that we used in the first raw file. But now we add a new ending that could be end, trimmed, final, stock, or anything else that you can come up with. This is an example of how it will look in our subfolder. Next, we will save a thumbnail of our pattern that will be later used in our database. So I recommend creating a rectangle of 800 by 600 pixels where we can apply our pattern on and save it for web, optimized in a JPEG or PNG format. Try always to be under 300 kilobytes. In this way, the image weight will remain low. As we will save this image directly from the second file, we can name it using the previous name and adding the suffix low, prep, or similar. This is the example of how it would look in our subfolder. I recommend as well saving always another image, JPEG or PNG, in high resolution, 300 dpi and in CMYK color mode, with our pattern applied in a larger rectangle of 297 by 420 millimeters. This image could be later be included in portfolios to be printed. My suggestion here is to keep always the SKU number and then save them with the same name as our second file, the clean pattern, ending with high, high-re, or similar. This is an example of how it would look in our subfolder. I suggest creating a portfolio sheet for every single pattern that we complete. For this purpose, it is recommended to work with templates to speed up the process. You can elaborate your portfolio sheet using Illustrator or InDesign templates. Save the new pattern portfolio sheet in both high and low resolution. The high resolution should be a PDF or PNG for printing, so you should save it with CMYK color mode. We can add the suffix port to identify it quickly. The low resolution one is meant to be attached to potential companies in your pitching emails, for example, so save it with RGB color mode and add the suffix port low. This is an example of how it would look in our subfolder. If you normally work with collections, now you can create another portfolio sheet using another template with all the designs that are part of that collection. In this case, I suggest exporting both high and low resolution portfolio sheets into the subfolder that belongs to the hero pattern of that collection in particular. And to identify them correctly, we can name the files including the name of the collection or similar. As you can see, for the low-re, you can export as a JPEG, PNG or interactive PDF with the same presets as before. For the high-re, I always export as a PDF for printing. So keep the CMYK color mode. Finally, we will include as well all the social media images or other visuals that we will need to use in our website, for example. For this purpose, it is again very recommendable to use templates to speed up the process and save you time. These templates should be set in RGB color mode. My suggestion here is to keep always the SKU number when exporting them as JPEGs or PNG. Those images that will go on your website should be already optimized for SEO by including keywords that will help us to improve our presence on Google. This is an example of how it would look in our subfolder. So this is how our subfolder content would look according to my recommendations for your file classification. The important thing here is that everything related to a single pattern is in place, and at a quick glance you will know exactly which file each one of them and what is their final purpose. So whenever you need them, they are already there for you. Not bad, right? If you are consistent with your file classification, whenever you finish a pattern, you will see, and believe me, that your workflow will improve tremendously. Your task for this lesson is to decide which suffixes you are going to use for each one of your files and documents in your subfolders. I gave you already some ideas in the lesson, but as usual, you have to decide for yourself what best suits you. Alright, so now we are ready to move to the next lesson.